Live from the heart of North Herefordshire, this is Earl Mortimer College Student Radio News. In November 2011, Mr Roberts and his Year 9 citizenship students decided to email a selection of hard-hitting questions to the local Member of Parliament, Mr Bill Wiggin. Little did they know that what started as just an email led to Mr Wiggin visiting the college in person for a face-to-face assembly with the students. Of course, we couldn't let him leave without first dropping into a live show on EMC Student Radio for a spontaneous interview with Anais, Tom Millwood and James Trotman. Here's what happened.
Well, we've had a bit of a surprise. We've had Mr Bill Wiggin visiting us today, and he's here with us now in the studio.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me in, and what a great studio this is. It's a joy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming to our college. You impressed with it all?
I am so impressed. I saw the college being built when it was still a building site. I came round and you could see how the classrooms were going to look, but of course when everyone's in there and lessons are going on, it's completely different and really fantastic, and I'm dead impressed. It's great.
Yeah, we're grateful that it's here as well. So explain to me about your job. You know, let's say, like, what's your job in 30 seconds?
Well, I'm a Member of Parliament. I'm therefore the representative of North Herefordshire. I got elected at the general election. My job is to make sure that people living in North Herefordshire are represented in Westminster, and so the government doesn't ignore us. And as a government whip as well, I'm responsible for making sure that the government delivers its vote and gets its business through the House of Commons.
That was under 20 seconds.
Oh, you were counting. You were actually counting. Oh, God. Other schools in Herefordshire were going to be rebuilt, but that hasn't really happened yet. What are the chances of more new schools being built?
Well, the problem we faced when we won the election was that we discovered that the last government had spent so much money that even if we cut the amount that we spend significantly, which we're doing, we will still go on borrowing more and more every year. At the moment, the national debt's somewhere in the region of 1.3 trillion. A trillion's got 12 noughts.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's 30,000 quid each we all owe. So it's a big deal. And what will happen is new schools will be rebuilt, but they won't be able to build them as quickly as we might want them to. But then you can't pay for things if you haven't got any money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think about the strikes happening, like next Wednesday?
I think it's a real shame. I very much hope that the strikes won't happen. The government understands that people working in the public sector want to have the best pensions possible. What's happened is that the public sector pensions, which after all are paid for by people working in the private sector, are now so much better than private sector pensions that we can't sustain that level. Therefore, we've offered a deal to the trade unions to try to stop this strike from going ahead. I hope that before the strikes happen, that deal will be taken up. If it isn't, I think it's a real shame, because people who are, say, teachers, come into teaching to look after young people, and if they're on strike, obviously they're not doing that. So I really hope they won't go out.
Yeah, I think our school's going to be open next Wednesday anyway, I think.
Yes, it is.
I'm talking about schools, about sixth form. There are over 1 million young people out of work in the UK. What are your priorities for helping young people find jobs when we finish education?
I think it's absolutely critical that we deal with these people they're good, they've done nothing wrong, there's no reason why they shouldn't have jobs. But we are dealing with an economic crisis, not just in the UK, but in the Eurozone as well. And I think if you look in the newspapers today, you'll see the government has put £1 billion aside to help pay people under 25. So when you get a job, half the money will be paid for by the company you're working for, and the other half of your wages will be paid for by the government. It's not ideal. Ideally, we would have so many businesses vying for you that we wouldn't need to, but at the same time what we need to do is encourage them to hire young people, because when you've got experience it's then much easier to find a job, and also you may choose to set up your own businesses, but of course if you haven't got the experience you can't even start. So that £1 billion will be to try and get people to choose young people rather than to hire older ones necessarily.
Lots of us live on farms, me included, and we're worried about jobs in the future for farming. What can you do to help that?
Well, the most important part is the reform of the Common Agricultural Policy, which comes up in 2013. And at the moment, the European Union, which divides, I think 43% of the entire European budget is spent on agricultural subsidy. That means that the money is given to farmers so that they compete on a level playing field with the rest of the world. What I want to make sure, and I've spoken to Caroline Spellman, who's the Secretary of State for Agriculture, about this already, is that we make sure that the money gets to the farmers, because there's quite a lot of pressure that says we must spend the money on environmental schemes. And at the moment, the European Union is suggesting that 7% of farmland be put aside for the benefit of the environment and birds and wildlife. Actually, farmers know better. They can choose the best bits for wildlife and biodiversity rather than being told what to do. So we don't like the proposals at the moment, and we're doing our best to change them.
That's good. Thanks for coming in to talk to us.
It's a pleasure. It's a great school, and you're very good at interviewing, and it's been a joy to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, thank you.
EMC Radio.
You're listening to EMC Student Radio.